So just two questions, quickly we'll finish it. Shouldn't take much time today. I hope we can wrap it up in max to max half an hour, 40 minutes. Yeah. So let's begin. All right. So everybody has the PPTs with them, right? Please let me know in the chat box. Okay. All right. So let's begin. Question number 3. A light engineering factory fabricates machine parts for customers. The factory commenced fabrication of 12 number machine parts as per customer specification. The expenditure incurred on the job for the week ending 21st August is as tabulated below. Direct materials 70 rupees, direct labor 20 hours at 15 rupees, which is 300 rupees. Then we have something called machine facilities. Machine number 1, 4 hours at 45. Machine number 2, 6 hours at 65, which gives you a total of 570. Then additional overheads at 8 per hour on 20 manual hours for 160. So the total cost is coming to 1810. The overhead rate of rupees 8, so this rupees 8 is based on 3000 man hours per week. Similarly, the machine hour rates are based on the normal working hours of machine number 1 and 2 of 40 hours and 45 hours per week. So machine number 1 and machine number 2 have been budgeted to work for 40 hours and 45 hours per week. After the close of each week, the factory levies a supplementary rate. Remember the supplementary rate to adjust for the actual overhead cost for the recovery of the full overhead expenses on the basis of actual hours worked. I think somebody's uh, mic is not on mute. Can you please mute yourself? Okay, thank you. Okay, so after the close of the week, supplementary rate is used to recover all the full overhead expenses on the basis of actual hours worked during the week. During the week ending 21st August, the total labor hours worked was 2,400 and machine number 1 and 2 had worked for 30 hours and 32.5 hours respectively. Prepare a cost sheet for the job for the fabrication of this machine parts. Okay, so let's try to understand what is the information given in the question. So first you can see that this is the expenditure incurred on the job for the week. So this is exactly what has been incurred. Actual expenses. Direct materials of 780 rupees has been used and direct labor has been incurred for 300 hours. When you come to the second part, there is something called machine facilities and overheads, which is absorbed into the good units. So please remember absorption whenever it takes place, the predetermined rate is always calculated on the budgeted hours, correct? And then we absorb it on the, we multiply that rate with the actual hours that have been used. So for this particular job that we're looking at, 4 hours of machine hours was actually utilized for machine number 1 and 6 hours for machine number 2 was actually realized. But this 45 rupees and 65 rupees is the predetermined rate, which was calculated based on the budgeted hours. So if you go down and see, we have something called as, there are two parts here, right? So this 3000 man hours, these 40 hours, this 45 hours, these are all the budgeted hours. And the actual hours that was actually the machine worked for was 2004, or not machine, sorry. The machine number 1 and 2 worked for was 30 hours and 32.5 hours. They budgeted that machine should have worked for 40 hours, but maybe due to some issues, machine was not fine. It worked only for 30 hours. And instead of 45 hours for the machine number 2, it worked only for 32.5 hours. So what we need to do now is we have the cost based on the absorption rate. We need to now adjust for the difference between the budgeted hours and the actual hours by adding that supplementary rate component, either being an under absorption or an over absorption. So what we need to first calculate is what is the actual expenses that was incurred and what is the supplementary rate that we need to adjust to this cost. Is everybody clear with what is the requirement of the question here? Please let me know in the comments. Is there any doubt with regards to what the question is asking? Please let me know in the chat box. Okay, I'm assuming there are no questions. So let's begin with the solution. All right. So the first thing that we will do with this question is we will try to calculate the supplementary rates. If you go back to the question, there are two types of overhead. Even though overheads is mentioned here only once, but this machine facilities is also an overhead because it's being absorbed. So it becomes an overhead only. So we will have to find the supplementary rate for this machine facility and supplementary rates for the overheads. So let's begin by finding the supplementary rate for the overhead. So in the question, we have been given that the hours for that overhead was budgeted to be 3,000 hours, but it actually worked for only 2,400 hours, correct? If you go back to the question, it says that the overhead rate was 8 rupees. If you do a back working, if I put the overhead rate as 8 rupees, I will get the overhead cost, budgeted overhead cost to be 24,000 rupees, correct? Everybody's clear so far? So if my overhead cost was 24,000 rupees, my budgeted hours were 3,000 hours. That's how I'll calculate my rate as 8 because budgeted cost by the budgeted hours will give me the predetermined rate. This is the predetermined rate, 8 rupees. But now we need to find what is the actual rate. So in this question, this overhead cost, nothing is given about the cost differing. They've only said that the hours have changed. So we will keep cost as it is. 24,000 will remain as it is because the question does not say any change in the cost. And then we can determine the new rate, which is 24,000 divided by 2,400, which we get as 10 rupees. So that implies our supplementary rate. We have actually absorbed only 8 rupees. We will have to absorb for an overhead cost of 10 rupees. So that means we have under absorbed. So we will further absorb into the cost another additional 2 rupees because 10 minus 8. Is that everybody is clear here? How did we calculate the supplementary rate? Okay. So another way you could have done it is by doing yeah. So this is the way, this is an indirect way of calculating the supplementary. Generally, what we used to do is we used to take the difference in the cost. Here we will take the difference in the rates itself because they have not given any other information. So this is how we calculate the 2 rupees of the supplementary rate. Let's move on to the next one, which is the machine facility. Machine facility is budgeted hours was 40 hours and the actual hours is 30 hours, right? The actual hours that it worked was for 30 hours. Now, the rate that we have been given is 45 rupees. So if we place 45 rupees here, we can get the overhead cost to be 45 into machine overhead cost 45 into 40 hours, which is 1,800 rupees. Since they have said there is no change in the cost, we keep the cost as it is, 1,800, and we'll find the revised rate, the revised actual rate, which comes to 60 rupees. So this gives us a supplementary rate of, again, we have under absorbed because we have done it at 45, but it should have actually been at 60 rupees. So we will do 60 minus 45. So this will give us a supplementary rate. So just for clarification, we can say that this is a situation of under absorption because budgeted is less than actual. Okay, so this you can try to remember. Similarly, here as well, it is a situation of under absorption because budgeted is less than actual. And this is the rate at which we have to inflate the cost with 15 rupees for machine number 1. Coming to machine number 2. Machine number 2 is said to be budgeted hours at 45 hours, but it has actually worked only for 32.5 hours. So just to go back to the question, you can see 45 hours was budgeted, but 32.5 hours was what was actually worked. So again, we have the rate given as 65 rupees. So we place that 65 into 45 hours, that gives us 2925, correct? Now we can place the 2925 here because there is no change in cost that is given so far. And then we find the revised actual rate that comes to 90 rupees. When we do 90 minus 65, we get a total of 25 rupees supplementary rate. Again, is this a situation of under absorption or over absorption? Can somebody tell me in the chat box? So Hale says over. How about the others? How about the others? Ranjit says under. Okay. Under. Good. Under. Okay. So, Suhail, you said over absorption. Now, let me clarify it. It is under absorption. So, how we need to understand whether it is under absorption or over absorption is by comparing budgeted rate versus the actual rate. So, remember that budgeted rate is the rate at which we absorb, correct? Yes, correct. I hope you understood. This is the rate at which we absorb. So we have absorbed less than what is incurred. So we have to absorb more. So that means it is currently under absorbed and we have to inflate the cost. Is that clear, Sohail? Okay, perfect. So now we have found the rates at which we have to inflate the cost. So now we can go ahead and we can calculate the cost sheet. So cost sheet, like we discussed in yesterday's class, starts with the direct material, already given to be 780 rupees in the question itself. Then we have direct labor. All of you can also start trying to do this question, and if anybody comes with the answer, you can put it into the chat box as well. Okay. So the next is direct labor. That's also given 20 hours into 15 rupees per hour. That will give me 15 into 20 hours, which is 300 rupees. Then we come down to the machine facilities. Now, machine facilities, what has been absorbed, what we know already is machine number 1. So 4 hours, which was actually worked, sorry about that, 4 hours, which was actually worked at 45 rupees. So already given in the question, we're just copy pasting the question because this is already absorbed at 4 hours. So that's 180. Then we have machine number 2. Sorry, did anybody have a question? Machine number 2 is 6 hours at 65 rupees. Is all. I'm just copying the question right now. So there is no brain work here. 65 total of 570. Then we have the overheads, which is 8 rupees into 20 hours, which will give me 20 into 8. Correct? So I get a total cost till now of what's happening there? Oops. So we have a total cost of 1810. I think till here it's clear because this is literally from the question. The main part starts from here where we are inflating the cost with a supplementary rate. So the first one is the overheads cost. Let's take the overheads. So we know that the supplementary rate is 2 rupees. We are going to add it to the cost because it's currently under absorbed. We add it. That will be 2 rupees into 20 hours. Why 20 hours? Because 20 hours is the actual hours that machine or that overhead cost utilized. The actual hours is only what we always absorb. It's only the rate that is budgeted. Okay, so this will be 2 into 20. Give me 40. Then we go to machine number 1. Machine number 1, we had arrived at 15 rupees. That is 15 rupees into 4 hours, because 4 hours is what was actually worked, given in the question. 15 into 4. And machine number 2. So all these will get added to the cost. 25 rupees into 6 hours. Yeah, so that will give us 25 into 6, which will be 150 rupees. So the final total cost for the entire job will be 1810 plus adding all these costs, 40 plus 60 plus 150. That gives us a total cost of 2060. Okay, now all of those who are referring to the CA material, the ICI material, please note that there is an error in the solution of the ICI material, because for some reason they have not considered 45 hours here, they have considered 40 hours here. So just take a note when you are solving the question that that is an incorrect solution and 45 hours you has to be taken over. Okay. Please note it in the ICI material. Is everybody okay with the solution? Any questions, any doubts? Can I proceed? Yes, I think, yes, yeah. All good, right? Okay, perfect. So then let's move on to the last question. Just one more. This is a comprehensive question. So let's look at it slowly because there's a lot of things in this question. Yeah. Okay. So let's begin. Now, A Limited manufactures two products, A and B. The manufacturing division consists of two production departments, P1 and P2, and two service departments, S1 and S2. So I hope you all remember service departments will get allocated to the production departments. Budgeted overhead rates are used in the production departments to absorb the factory overheads to the products. The rate of the department P1 is based on direct machine hours, while the rate of the department P2 is based on the direct labor hours. In applying overheads, the predetermined rates are multiplied by the actual hours. So this is normal. They have given us the information of how to calculate the predetermined rate. Once you have allocated the service cost to the production departments, you need to absorb the production overheads into the product. So this is the rate at which we will absorb it. Now, for allocating the service departments, the basis adopted is as follows. Cost of department S1 to department P1 and P2 equally, and cost of department S2 to department P1 and P2 in the ratio of 2:1. So they have given us the ratios in which we have to allocate the service cost to the service department cost to the production departments. The following budgeted and actual data are available. Annual profit plan data. Factory overheads budgeted for the year. Please note this is the budgeted costs. For production department P1, it's 25 lakhs 50,000, P2 is 2175, S1 is 6 lakh, S2 is 4 lakh 50,000. Budgeted output in units for product A is 50,000 units, product B is 30,000 units. Budgeted raw material cost per unit, product A is rupees 120, product B is rupees 150. Budgeted time required per unit. For product A in department P1, 1.5 machine hours. For product B, it's 1 machine hour. For in department 2, product A requires 2 labor hours and product B requires 2.5 labor hours. So to just give you a little bit of a visualization of what's happening in this company is there are two production departments. Production department means where the product is actually being produced. And there are two service ancillary departments that is helping these production departments. Each production department is contributing to the production of these two products. So product A gets produced in department P1 also and in department P2 also. So there are two departments which are contributing to the production of so you can say like there are two departments and both these departments are producing product A and both these departments are producing product B. So this is how you need to visualize the process in the organization. Average weight rates budgeted in department P2 are product A is 72 rupees per hour and product B is 75 rupees per hour. This is again budgeted wage rates. All materials are used in department P1 only. Actual data. Units actually produced. Product A, 4,000 units. Product B, 3,000 units. So this is what is actually produced now. Actual direct machine hours. So this was budgeted. They wanted to produce 50,000 units. But is it the 50,000 for the year? Please note this is for the year. And when you take the month, they have given it for the month. Actual data that units have been produced is 4,000 units and 3,000 units. Actual direct machine hours worked in department P1. On product A, 6,100 hours have been worked. On product B, 4,150 hours have been worked. What is the budgeted hours? They have not given the budgeted hours directly. They have given it the budgeted hours for a unit. So we can totally multiply the budgeted hour per unit into the budgeted units and get the budgeted hours, total hours, right? That's how we'll calculate the budgeted hours. Then we have actual direct labor hours worked in department P2. On product A is 8,200 hours and product B is 7,400 hours. Costs actually incurred. Product A, 4,89,000. Product B, 4,56,000. Wages, 591, 552. This is for product wise. But overheads, they have given it to us based on the department. So department P1, department P2, S1 and S2. So we have to do the whole process of finding the predetermined rate. First we will allocate the service department cost, then we'll find the predetermined rate, and then we'll absorb these predetermined rate into the actual hours that have been worked. So let's look at what are we required to compute. Like I said, you have to compute the predetermined overhead rate for each production department, and then prepare a performance report for July that will reflect the budgeted costs and the actual costs. So I hope everybody has understood what this question is exactly asking. They have given us the service budgeted data, they've given us the actual data, they've given us the ratio in which the service department cost will be allocated to the production department. They've given us the basis on which we will calculate the predetermined rate, and then accordingly we will calculate the predetermined rate and allocate the cost, right? So our first step, I think, should be to find out this predetermined rate, right? So how do we find out the predetermined rate? Okay. So if you see, the question shows that the question says that the rate of department P1 is based on direct machine hours, while the rate of department P2 is based on direct labor hours. So what does that mean? The budgeted overhead cost of department P1 will be divided by the direct machine hours, and the budgeted direct machine hours, and the budgeted cost of department P2, budgeted overhead cost, will be divided by the direct labor hours for department P2. This is how we will calculate the predetermined rate. So let's take our first step to calculate the budgeted direct machine hours. What we have here is machine hours only for the unit. So we will multiply this with the budgeted output and find the total hours. Okay. So let's begin with the question. So first we'll calculate the budgeted machine hours and the budgeted labor hours, because that is our basis, right, to determine the predetermined rate. So let's begin. We have been given the budgeted output. Product A is 50,000. Product B is 30,000 units. Correct? We have this information in the question. Now, what is the budgeted rate for what is the budgeted hours utilized per unit? Given to be 1.5 hours and given to be 1 hour. So what does that give us? That gives us the budgeted machine hours. Correct? 50,000 into 1.5. Similarly, 30,000 into 1 hour. So this will give me my budgeted machine hours, which will form the basis for my predetermined rate. So what will be the next one? Okay, just a minute. Okay, this is the budgeted machine hours. We can do a similar practice for the labor hours as well. We'll just copy this itself. You can write this as machine hours. This is okay. Now, can somebody tell me the values here? What is the budgeted labor hours used for product A per unit? Can someone mention it to me? How much is it?
2 hours.
2 hours. Okay, perfect. And how about for product B?
2.5.
Okay, that's great. So budgeted labor hours will be 50,000 into
1
2,
lakh.
1 lakh. Okay. And how about for product B?
75.
75,000. Perfect. Everybody is clear till here? The calculation of budgeted labor hours and budgeted machine hours? Let me know in the comments. I shall proceed then. Okay. How about the others? Okay, great. So now we will proceed with the calculation of the, yes, okay. Now we have the calculation of the actual hours. Okay, why actual hours? Because this is for the later part of the question. For now, we are just focusing on the predetermined rate. This much information is enough. We will come back to this later on. So this is it. This is understood. We shall proceed now with the calculation of the predetermined overhead rate. So how do we start? We have our production departments and our service department. P1, P2, S1 and S2. Correct? It's given in the question. So the first part is the budgeted factory overheads. Correct? What is it given? 25 lakhs 50,000. What is it for P2?
21 lakh 75,000.
21 lakhs 75,000. For S1?
6 lakh.
6 lakhs. And S2?
4 lakh 50,000.
4 lakh 50,000. Are you able to see my screen, everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, okay, perfect. So we have our budgeted factory overheads. So step 1 is we will allocate the S1 cost, which is given to be equal. Correct? So let's reduce our entire S1 and split it as equal. Correct? Divided by, that will give us 3 lakh each. Then we will allocate the S2 cost and we will split it in the ratio of 2:1. So we will reduce the 4,50,000 and this will be 4,50,000 into 2 by 3. This will be 4,50,000 into 1 by 3, which is 1,50,000. 0. Also be 0. So this is our first step. We have allocated the service cost. So let's find the final total cost now for the production departments. That will be 31 lakh 50,000 and 26 lakh 25,000. I hope it's clear till here. Now, what do we do? Production P1 will be divided by what? Budgeted machine hours or budgeted labor hours?
Machine hours.
Machine hours, that's correct. So because the question says that it is going to be divided by the machine hours. So budgeted machine hours, it gives us a total cost, total hours that we have already calculated above. Let's go. Is coming to 75,000 plus, 1 second. So let's total this, right? We need the total here. So is equal to 75,000 plus 30,000, which is 1,05,000. Here we need 1 lakh plus 75,000 because both the products have been produced in that department and the total machine hours is what we will be needing. So coming back to our budgeted machine hours, so now we can take the entire 1,05,000 as the base here. And for department 2, what will it be? Will we take machine hours or labor hours? Let me
Labor.
know in the comment. Labor hours. That's right. So we will take labor hours. Coming to 1,75,000.
എല്ലായിടത്തും പോയി പറയുന്നു എന്തൊക്കെയായിരുന്നു
Is somebody
എല്ലാരിടത്തും
having a
പോയി
question?
പറയും കിരണിനോട് പോയി പറയും പപ്പേല് പറഞ്ഞു അഞ്ചിന് പോകുന്നു.
Okay. So now we have our machine hour, which is our budgeted overhead rate. Let's call it our budgeted overhead rate. 31,50,000 divided by 1,05,000. That's giving us 30, and 26,25,000 divided by 1,75,000. So this is our step one, right? We had to calculate a predetermined rate for absorption. If you go back to the question, the second thing that it's asking us to prepare a performance report for the budgeted costs and the actual costs. So now what we need to do is we need to find the actual costs and the budgeted costs for the actual outputs. So we have 4,000 units produced and 3,000 units produced. Now we need to find the budgeted cost for these and for the actual costs. Most of the actual cost is anyway given, right? The raw material cost is given, wages is given. So our job is only to find out the revised cost for the overheads, how we will allocate the overheads to the products. Because for the products, we have the raw material and the wages. But now we need it for the overhead cost, because overhead is given for department-wise and not for the products. So let's go ahead and see what is the first step that we need to perform. The first thing that we need to do is calculate the actual hours that was needed for the actual output. Because why do we need the actual hours for the actual output? Because when we look at the actual overhead that is absorbed, or the actual overhead that is incurred, it will always be absorbed or incurred based on the actual hours, right? Actual hours that was worked. So let's go into the details of the calculation of actual hours. So the first step would be, what is our actual output? Our actual output is given to be 4,000 units and 3,000 units each. Next. Now we need to calculate our actual, we don't need to calculate anything here, everything is given, actual machine hours. So the actual machine hours here is 6,100 and 4,150. So this will give us a total hours of 10,250. This is the total actual machine hours that was utilized. Then we have the actual labor hours. Actual labor hours is given to be 8,200 for product A and 7,400 for product B. So if you look at the total, we're getting it as 15,600 hours. Now, where will we utilize this? Now, let's see what is the utilization of these actual hours. Okay. So now when we can come into the actual overhead rates, right? Why do we need the actual overhead rates? Because actual overhead rates will show us what is the overheads that have been absorbed for these particular units that has been produced, right? Because the machine hours would have been, the overhead rate would be absorbed based on the actual hours that is worked. So that is why we need to calculate what is the actual overheads that is absorbed. So let's proceed with the overhead cost here. It's already given in the question. 2,31,000 for P1, 2,04,000 for P2, 60,000 for service department, and 48,000 for the next service department. Now we shall allocate S1 equally. So let's reduce S1 first, 60,000, and we will allocate it by, because equally, correct? Next is we will allocate S2 at the rate of, at the ratio 2:1. let's reduce S2's cost of 48,000 and allocate it to P1 and P2 at 2:1. So this will become into 2 by 3 and this will be into 1 by 3. All clear till now? Got the allocation of the costs? Okay. Now we will go ahead and put the actual machine hours which we have calculated. Because for production department P1, it will be utilizing the machine hours, correct? So that will be 10,250 hours. And for production department 2, we will be using the labor hours, actual labor hours. So that will be 15,600. Let me put the formula so that you guys are not confused. Okay. So now we will get the actual machine hours, which would have been absorbed. That will be 32,000. Okay, let's find the total first. The actual machine hour rate, or you can say the actual absorption. This is the rate at which it was actually absorbed. So that will be my overhead costs divided by the actual machine hour. That is 28.58. And similarly, 2.5 lakhs divided by 15,600. So this gives me my actual absorption rate of 28.58 and 16.03. So how do we know what is the total actual overheads that was incurred for the basis of labor hours? So if we take product A utilized how many labor hours? It utilized 8,200 labor hours, correct? So that will be 8,200 labor hours into 16.02 rupees. Why 16.02 rupees? Because this is the absorption rate for the labor hours of production department P2. P2 is utilizing labor hours to determine their overhead rate. So this will give us a total cost of 8,200 into 16.02. That will give me an actual absorbed overhead to be 1,31,364. And for product B, can somebody tell me what will it be for product B? Based on labor hours, what will be the actual absorbed overhead? Is everybody following so far? Any questions, any doubts? Please let me know in the chat box. Hello. Has everybody understood the calculation of the actual overhead rates? All right. So then can we proceed with the calculation of the actual overhead absorbed? So maybe I think what is confusing you is how did I get the 8,200 hours? 8,200 hours is the actual labor hours used for product A into the absorption rate. Okay, maybe an easier way to do this would be, okay, let me just figure out a better way so that you are not confused. That Okay. So I think this will be an easier way. I think you all are getting confused here for some reason. Okay. So now forget this actual absorption. Okay. Let's not confuse with all of this. Just look at these figures. Let me highlight this. Okay. So now for production department P1, everybody is clear that 2,93,000 is the total overhead cost. How we arrived at 2,93,000, everybody's clear here? 2,93,000 and 2,50,000. Everybody's clear, correct? Okay, great. Everybody is clear that 10,250 hours is the total machine hours that was utilized by P1 and 15,600 is the total labor hours utilized by department P2. Is this clear? Is these two parts clear? The total cost and the actual hours? Okay, great. Now what we need in the question is comparing the budgeted with the actual. But in actual, we don't need, see, technically we just need the 2,93,000. But for the sake of the question, we need to just split it into the two products, product A and product B. So 2,93,000 is for both the products, product A and product B, and 2,50,000 is for both product A and product B. So now what we're doing is nothing but splitting this 2,50,000 into the two products. Is it clear what we're doing now? Just for the presentation purpose. Is everybody clear that we are splitting this cost, 2,90,000 into the two products? Let me show you how. Okay. So we know that total hours we calculated to be 10,250, correct? Sorry, not 10,000. We are talking about labor hours here. That is 15,600, which is what we calculated here. And that for product A is 8,200 hours. For product B is 7,400 hours. Correct? Everybody knows that how we arrived at this 15,600. Correct? Now we know that for 15,600, the total cost is 2,50,000. So if you utilize a unitary method for 8,200 hours, what is the cost? 8,000 into 2,50,000 divided by 15,600. That will give me 131,410. Is this okay? Is now everybody understanding what we are calculating exactly? Is this clear, everybody? Everybody understood the unitary method, right? Okay. Thank you, Athira. How about the others? One more time. Okay, let me show it to you for the next product. So 15,600 is the total hours and 2,50,000 is the total cost. So we only need for product B. So product B is utilizing only 7,400 hours. So we do a unitary method. It is 7,400 into the cost divided by the total hours. So we will get only that component which pertains to product B, which is utilizing 7,400 hours. So if you total this up, it will come to 2,50,000 only. So we are just splitting it, the 2,50,000 for 8,200 hours and 7,400 hours. Money, is it clear or do you want me to repeat it again? How about the others? Okay, that's great, Money. How about the others? Understood what we're doing here? Thank you. Okay, so I think everybody has a clarity. So now you guys tell me for the next part. Do it again. Total machine hours. Now we're doing for the machine hours because this department P1 is taking machine hours, correct? So total machine hours, and then for product A and product B. Okay. So total we know is 10,250. Product A, can somebody tell me how many hours? in the chat box. The same way we did for labor hours, we are doing it now for machine hours. So can somebody tell me what is the hours, the actual hours for product A and product B? Anybody? It's directly from the question. So take your
6,100.
calculator. 6,100. Thank you so much.
Product A,
And product B?
4,150.
Perfect. This is nothing but given in the question. So for total machine hours, we have the cost as 2,93,000, which is what we calculated. So now can somebody calculate and tell me what is it for product A and product B in the comments? Can somebody split this cost between product A and product B? Anybody? Can somebody put the calculation at least in the chat box? 174. Perfect. 370. Great. And how about product B? One one eight six two nine. Great job, Atira. How about the others? Great. That's the right answer, Suhail. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. I think now everybody has understood. So now product A will be 6,400 into 2,93,000 divided by 10,250. That is 174,370. Okay. And instead of calculating again, you can just do 2,93,000 minus 1,74,370. That will give you the difference, which is what we need. So I hope everybody has understood here, correct? All clear till here. I can proceed now. Okay. No confusions, right? Okay. So now we will go ahead and prepare our performance report, which is the second part of the question. So what is the question saying? To compare the budgeted with the actual. What is the budgeted? Budgeted, if you see, first one is for the raw material. So let's say product A and product B. Okay. So we are basically putting down all the costs and we are comparing budgeted versus actual. Let me highlight it so that it's not confusing. Product A. So let's go back to the question. Question says, okay. Question says, cost per unit is 120 rupees for A, which is budgeted, and 150 rupees for product B. And we have the actual units already, 4,000 units and 3,000 units. So we will just multiply 4,000 into 120 and 3,000 into 150. Okay, I hope that's clear. So 4,000 units into 120 rupees, which will give me 4,000 into 120. And for product B, it is 3,000 units into 150 rupees, which is equal to 3,000 into 150. Here, can somebody please tell me the actual rates given, actual amounts given in the question? For product A, anyone? Anyone, it's given in the question. You just have to read it out from the question. The direct wages, direct material. Not able to find it? It's here, right? Raw materials. 4,89,000 and 4 lakh. This is the actual costs. Everybody is aware, right? This is the actual cost and we are comparing it with the budgeted costs. Okay. All right. So there's nothing to calculate. It's given in the question itself. This is 4,89,000. 4,89,000 given in the question and 4,56,000 given in the question. I hope it's clear. Then labor, product A and product B. How do we calculate the labor? Now, when you go back to the question, it says that labor hours, budgeted labor hours per unit is given as 2 for product A and 2.5 for product B. So we multiply the 4,000 units which is actually produced into the budgeted hours that is going to be utilized, that is budgeted to be utilized for the 4,000 units into the direct labor cost. What is the labor cost? It's given to be 72 rupees for product A and 75 rupees for product B. And here it will be 3,000 units into 2.5 hours into, what is the rate? Can someone tell me the rate? $75. Thank you so much. So everybody's clear why we're using the actual units even though we're calculating the budgeted cost, right? Because we have to calculate the budgeted cost for the actual units only. We will not use budgeted units here of 50,000 units and all. No, we will use the budgeted costs for the actual output produced, because we need to see that when I produce 4,000 units, how much do I think I would incur and how much have I actually incurred for that 4,000 units and 3,000 units that I have produced today. Okay. I hope that's clear. That's why we're using the 4,000 units. Because we want to compare the 4,000 units cost with the actual cost incurred. So what has this come to? 4,000 units into 2 into 72. 5,76,000. And this will be 3,000 units into 2.5 into 75 rupees. 5,62,500. Can somebody please read out the actual labor cost that was incurred for this output? $5,91,000. Thank you so much. And 5,52,000. Thank you. Everybody is clear till here, right? Budgeted versus the actual. So for the 4,000 and 3,000 units produced, if the question told compare what was the budgeted cost for the budgeted output, then we wouldn't use 4,000 units for the budgeted cost. This is something we will take up in standard costing, not here. But remember that they are not mentioned anything complicated like calculate the budgeted cost for the budgeted output. It's just mentioned calculate the budgeted cost and the actual cost for the actual output. So this you have to keep in mind what the question is asking. Okay. Here it's asking for the actual output. So you will calculate it for 4,000 and 2,000 only. Okay. All right. So let's proceed now. Overhead for product A and product B. Product A. Again, we have 4,000 units. Let me go back to the question so that it's easier for you. Department P1. This is for machine hours P1. P1 is using machine hour rate given in the question. Machine hour rate is said to be 1.5 hours for product A and 1 hour for product B. Okay. And what is the rate for the product? What is the machine hour rate that we're going to use? Let me see who can answer this. What is the machine hour rate that we will be using? Anybody? Okay. So there was this one thing that we calculated, right, in the beginning of the question, the machine hour rate, the budgeted overhead rate. Now we will utilize this rate to absorb the cost for the budgeted cost of that overhead. Did you understand? So now this 30 rupees will be utilized. This is the budgeted rate, right? The predetermined rate. So when we absorb it, what do? We multiply this 30 rupees with the actual output to get the budgeted cost. Correct? And this will be the budgeted rate for the budgeted output, and that will give us the budgeted cost. Is everybody clear? Do you remember how we compared actual absorbed cost versus actual cost and found the supplementary rate? So this is a similar concept. Now we are finding out, we are using this predetermined rate, correct? But when you go and see the actual rate, even though we didn't use this anywhere, but for your information so that you understand the logic, instead of 30 rupees, the actual rate was 29 rupees, 28.6 rupees. And instead of 15 rupees, it has become 16.02 rupees. So we have a difference, that is the supplementary rate. We don't have to get into the supplementary rate, but I'm trying to explain that this 30 rupees and 15 rupees is our predetermined rate, which we will utilize to absorb the overheads so that we find the budgeted cost. Confused? See, when we calculated this budgeted, we took all budgeted costs and budgeted hours, correct? That's how we came up with this 30 rupees and 50 rupees. This is our budgeted overhead rate, the predetermined rate. And then we got to know that in actuality, this is how much we have incurred for the 4,000 and 3,000 units. But now we will calculate the cost on a budgeted basis for those 4,000 and 3,000 units. Okay, let me put the formula and see whether there's still confusion. So 4,000 units, it said that it's going to take a budgeted 1.5 hours and it is going to take a budgeted rate of 30 rupees. Is it making sense why we have calculated it like this? Still confusion? Clear, Athira, thank you. How about the others? It's simple. We will just use the budgeted rate here to calculate the budgeted cost. Okay, great. So can somebody tell me what will be the formula for product B for the budgeted cost? Then I'll know whether this concept is actually clear or not. Can somebody tell me for product B in the comments? What will be the budgeted cost? $3,000 units into 1 hour into 30 rupees. Great. Great job, Atira. Thank you. So like she rightly mentioned, 3,000 units will be multiplied into 1 hour because 1 hour is what it takes into 30 rupees because 30 rupees is the predetermined rate for our P1 department. Okay, so that is 3,000 into 1 hour into 30 rupees, that is 90,000. Abu Tahir, why did you get 1,12,500? Have you taken 3,000 units into 1 hour into 30 rupees? Product B will utilize 1 hour in department P1. Have you identified the error? Right, okay. I hope it's clear now. Okay. And then for product A, the actual overhead cost we have already calculated for machine hours as 1,74,370. Correct? And for product B, we have calculated as 1,18,630. So this is our actual cost, that we split into product A and product B. And this is our budgeted based on this budgeted rate. Similarly, can you also tell me for the labor hour basis for product A and product B? Can someone give me the formula for product A on labor hour basis in the chat box? Same concept as the machine hour basis for P2. Please let me know the formula for product A and product B. 4,000 into 2 into 15 rupees. Great. 15 rupees. What is 15 rupees, Atira? How about the others? Did everybody arrive at the same formula? So, like Atira mentioned, 4,000 units into 2 hours into 15 rupees. Same concept. 4,000 units, actual units produced, takes 2 hours each of labor hours. And we have calculated the predetermined rate for labor hours to be 15 rupees. So for our budgeted cost of this product A, it will be 4,000 units into 2 hours into 15 rupees. Is it clear, everybody? All right. So how about the others? Thank you, Afifa. What about the others? Okay, Najat, thank you. Is there still confusion or doubt? Okay, can somebody tell me what is the second formula for product B? How will we calculate that? Can somebody tell me how will we calculate the budgeted cost for product B in department P2? 3,000 into 2.5 to 15. Great. How about the others? Apart from Atira, has nobody else arrived at this? Okay, great, Khatija. How about the others? Perfect. Thank you, Naja. So it's very simple. Budgeted cost will be your actual units into the budgeted hours that will be used into the budgeted rate per hour. Very simple. You don't have to confuse yourself. Let me just make a note of it here so that those of you who are confused can make some logic out of it. Your actual output into your budgeted hours that will be taken into your budgeted overhead rate or your predetermined rate that we just calculated. That will give me the budgeted cost of that actual output. Okay, so this is 3,000 units into 2.5 hours into 15. That will give me 3,000 units into 2.5 into 15. And the actual cost of product A we have calculated on the labor basis here is 131410, and for the product basis is product B is 118,589. So this gives me a total cost on an actual basis, and this gives me a total cost on a budgeted basis. Has everybody followed me with this question till here? Is there any confusion, any part that you want me to repeat? Charges. Is there any part you want me to repeat? Has everybody understood it so far? Because this brings us to the end of the question and the session. So please let me know if there's anything you want me to repeat in this question. All good? Thank you, Abu Tahir. Thank you, Atira. Okay. So I don't want anybody mugging up any formulas. Everybody should logically think and apply and multiply and come to the answer. Otherwise, it will not be easy for you in the exam, right? So I hope everybody has understood it logically. Thank you, Ranjita. Thank you, Naja. How about everybody else? Okay. Great. Okay then, so that's about it. That brings us to the end of today's session. If you want, I will share this Excel sheet as well, so you can keep it as a reference. And yeah, that's about it. So this brings us to the end of today's session. So we shall meet tomorrow, and I'll be taking up ABC analysis tomorrow, ABC costing, and we will close that topic. It's a small topic, so we'll finish that off tomorrow itself. So thank you, everybody. That's about it. I will be sharing the Excel sheet to you all. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.